it's horse beef, man, and the Ank did it, dude. Big Ank, man. Big Ank. He pulled it off. He got it done by decision, as expected if he was going to get the win. And this one was about as close as a title fight really gets. You have 2 rounds that are clear, at least from what I saw for Alex, 2 rounds that are clear from what I saw for Ank, and then you have that 1 round in the middle that was just the toss-up and got me pretty worried when the scorecards were being read out. I had a weird feeling that the judges would give the third to Ank just because of that one jab he landed and the optics of it, right? Fucking Poatan stumbling. Although there was a lot less wrestling than I was actually expecting, and that is actually down to the clearly improved takedown defense of Alex Pereira. Everything DC's been saying about how hard it is to take the guy down, he was correct, clearly. But at the same time, we lost something here with Alex, right? He was, I guess you could say he was off, or he didn't show up, or he froze up. I'm not too sure what you would like to call it, but at the same time, that's in no way me trying to suggest that he may have an injury or something. No, I don't think so. I think what we saw was a similar situation to what we saw with Sean O'Malley against Merab, right? Froze up against that takedown threat. And Leon against Bilal, for example, right? Obviously, Ankalaev didn't put up the same type of performance, but because he established the willingness to go for a takedown, right? Or even if he didn't establish it, Pereira was aware that was probably going to be the game plan of Ank, and I think he was surprised with how well Ank was actually able to do on the feet. He was landing those left hands relatively frequently. The lead hand wasn't landing too much. But what surprised me the most was how easily Ank was seemingly able to pressure Poatan back against the fence. There was really nothing coming from Alex Pereira. He wasn't throwing nearly enough jabs, and I think that was what lost him the fight here. I think if he was just peppering him with more jabs, right? Every time Ankalaev tries pressing you forward, just throw the jabs out there, but Pereira just wasn't throwing shit. He was getting his fucking legs crossed up as well. He was kind of like in between thoughts, it seemed like. It's like, okay, I'm going to throw a calf kick, but then he realized, oh shit, I shouldn't throw a calf kick. I'm out of position. Then he would freeze up. He would hesitate. And that's when Ank caught him in the second round. But the leg kicks from Ank were doing something, but I don't know how much they were actually affecting Alex Pereira at the end of the day. And at the same time, I think Alex may have faded in this fight. I think in the third round, I noticed Alex started to fade. In the fourth and fifth, it didn't look like he had much pop at all on his shots until the fifth. That nice inside leg kick, I believe it was, outside lead leg kick because of the stance differences, and then I believe threw a rear round kick to the head right after, and it did land. It did land slightly behind the ear, and then you could see that Alex maybe had some momentum going forward. But I don't know. I don't really know what to take from this fight because Ank honestly put on a good performance, and I think people are being dishonest by not trying to give him the credit that he deserves, I think, for how he performed, because he did very well on the feet. And people are talking about damage, or Ank just held Pereira against the fence. But we need to be consistent. I do understand that it was much better for the business if Pereira won this fight, right? Ank being champion is not good for business. Clearly that is the case. But it was a good performance. Yes, he did, I believe, grind out all of round 4 by just holding Pereira against the fence. Yes, that was annoying to watch. I agree. But at the same time, Alex needs to take some blame in that as well. You cannot just throw all of it on Ankalaev because he fought the way you expected him to fight. Right? You expected him to fight like this. But I don't think we expected Alex Pereira to freeze up and throw such low volume at the end of the day, because Ankalaev at times was able to just pressure forward with nothing coming back. I remember, myself included, right, everyone giving Izzy shit for some of his safer performances where he's just backpedaling and throwing leg kicks. If we're being real here, man, that is the majority of what Poatan did during this fight. He didn't land many significant strikes to the head. He really wasn't able to, even significant body shots. The left hook was looking slow tonight, man, and he was missing the mark majority of the time with it. There was one moment, could have been in round 5 actually, where he landed his classic slip-off right hand, left hook right behind it. It looked good, but too few and far between with those kinds of moments. And Poatan really, for the most part, was just chopping the legs. Now Ankalaev showed that he's able to deal with the leg kicks. And maybe in the case of the Jan Blachowicz fight, maybe it really was just the fact that Jan was going shin to shin with him that was breaking his legs down so quickly. Poatan landed a lot of them in this fight, but they just weren't really having a noticeable effect on Ank. They weren't really affecting his ability to press forward. They were potentially affecting his ability to finish takedowns, but clearly not affecting his ability to hold him against the fence. But I need to say it again. I feel like there's just too much sentiment going around acting like Ankalaev only held Pereira against the fence. Dude, we cannot be like this. We can't, right? We love to laugh at the Sean O'Malley fans crying about how Merab only held him on the ground and did no damage, right? We are laughing at them for this, okay? But if you're that guy laughing at the O'Malley fans like I am, then in the next breath, you cannot be shitting on Ank and complaining about the fact that Alex was held against the fence for a round, okay? You just can't do that. This is what was expected, and Alex Pereira needs to take blame. He needs to take blame. It was an inactive performance. This was an Izzy-esque performance. Now, of course, he doesn't put these up all the time. This is the first example I can even think of this. So Alex does get a pass, right? But we saw what happens when he's standing in front of that stylistic mismatch. I thought he'd be able to get more done on the feet. Clearly, that was not what we saw. And if you want to give Alex round 1, makes all the sense in the world. I score round 1 for him. If you want to give him round 3, makes all the sense in the world. I score round 3 for him. I was scoring it unanimously for him until Ank landed that nice jab on the chin that seemed to stumble Alex Pereira. Maybe he just caught him at the right time as Pereira was out of position and kind of looked like it stumbled him more than it actually did. But optics-wise, I can understand, I guess, why that would sway the judges in Ank's direction, and it was mostly Ank on the front foot, but Pereira had a lot of success in the third round, so it's hard to deny that. But for me, that was the round that really decided this fight. Round 4 was obviously Ank's, and I think round 2 was obviously Ank's. Round 5 I thought was obviously Pereira's, so I was confused when one judge actually scored this fight 49-46. Pretty criminal, honestly. Like, as inactive as Poatan was, there were still 3 rounds that you could give to him. But would I call this fight a robbery? I think no. Same sentiment as my community post last night. I did rewatch the fight again, and once again, I cannot say this fight's a robbery, guys. I'm sorry. This isn't some sellout shit. This isn't me just trying to give Ank credit and backpedal in any way. No, I picked Poatan to win this fight. Is it the age finally catching up to him? Maybe. Has he been training as much as he normally does? Maybe not. Maybe he has. Maybe all the globetrotting he's been doing has been catching up to him. I'm not sure, but I can tell you one thing is that the look on Pereira's face walking out when he was in the octagon in between rounds after the fight was finished, everything about his demeanor was very different in this one, I noticed. And I did also notice some salt coming from Pereira afterwards, talking about he didn't damage me, he was just holding me against the fence, but he did fucking hurt you bad in round 2, man, and you were saved by the bell. And I think people are really doing their best to ignore that fact. He was saved by the bell. And for the opening 3 rounds, pretty much this fight was mostly just straight up striking engagements. That's all. And for the most part, aside from the calf kicks, Ank was having the more success. He was landing more shots up top. He was landing the cleaner strikes. Most of what Pereira was landing, like I said, was just straight leg kicks. I think he was expecting at some point those were going to accumulate and at some point have some noticeable effect on Ank, but it just didn't come, and it just seemed like Alex Pereira wasn't ready to adjust to that. He wasn't ready to adjust to that. And that's just what happened, man. Was it a close fight? Yes. Could it have gone either way? In my opinion, yes. I think if Alex Pereira got the decision, it would have made sense. But I think it also makes sense for Ank to get the decision. And that's just the objective MMA fan in me. I'm not some super fan of Poatan. I'm not a quote-unquote Poetard, as some people like to call the Pereira fans. But I can see what people mean when they do refer to Poetards and talk about them being sensitive. Because, man, I have to be, like I say, I make fun of the Dagestani fan base when they cry about Umar losing the fight. I make fun of the O'Malley fans when they cry about him losing the fight to Merab. Now, I'm not going to make fun of the Poetards because I like Poatan. I do. I like Poatan. And this is an unfortunate result, and it is bad for the business side of things objectively. But to support the Pereira fans here, at the very least, right, the Pereira fans, if you go just based on round-by-round scoring, there is at least an argument to say that this fight could have gone Alex's way, right? As opposed to the fights between Merab and Sean or Merab and Umar, where there actually is no argument when you watch it round by round. But round by round, yes, there actually is an argument here. Even if I don't exactly agree with it, I do understand the argument. But he did do a lot better on the feet than a lot of people were expecting, and you just have to give him credit for it. Like this kind of does shut down many opportunities that Poatan would potentially have for a super fight against the heavyweight champ, whoever that ends up being, besides Jones and Aspinall. But it is what it is. He'll probably get a rematch against Ankalaev. Ankalaev's offering him the rematch. I'm not too sure that the rematch will be much different than this, if I'm being honest. think we may have seen really what happens with this type of matchup. And like, we just have to be real, man. Ankalaev is damn good. He's damn good. He proved that he's a lot better on the feet than even I expected, just considering the fact that he was standing in front of Pereira and freezing Pereira up. I do think it was the takedown threat. Now, even if Ankalaev didn't establish it really early, Pereira at the same time most definitely knew that at some point takedowns would be shot on him, and that made him extremely hesitant to let his hands go. And that's just what we got at the end of the day. We got a frozen performance from Alex Pereira. And because Ank won the fight, I just have to say that he just didn't do enough, man. He didn't do enough. He didn't do enough to solidify himself as the winner of this fight. So for that reason, I was expecting Ankalaev to get the victory, even though I don't think it's right, the fact that Ankalaev was given the 5th round by anybody, really, just because he held Pereira against the fence. In that regard, yes, I understand where the frustration is coming from. You shouldn't be able to steal a round from your opponent just by holding on to them for the last minute and a half of the round. That, to me, didn't make sense. But round 3 was the toss-up. It was the deciding round. And even after watching it back once again, I have to say it remains a toss-up. And I noticed that the Weasel, I think he uploaded his breakdown of the fight last night and actually made the claim that Alex Pereira was robbed, and then I believe re-uploaded it with a new verdict to say that Ankalaev was the rightful winner. So I'm not too sure there whether he was just emotional the night of the fight. Maybe he's a Poatan fan. I don't really know too much about the Weasel, so you guys can let me know if you would like. But I found that to be pretty interesting. But other than this fight, I would like to go over the rest of the card as well, because there were some pretty fun results and some pretty awesome fights on this card. So let's get into that, man. And to get us started off, man, we had Jordan Santos versus Ozzy Diaz for the Special Olympics title, apparently, because this fight was ridiculous. Both men just no technique, throwing shots at each other. That's all it was for the entirety of this fight. It was boring until it was actually a lot of fun, especially in that 3rd round where both men are just gassed, especially Santos. And fucking John Anik spitting facts about Jordan Santos' upbringing, talking about how he grew up in a dog pound or some shit like that. And yeah, it shows, man, because this dude is an absolute dog. No technique. Whenever he was throwing a right hand, it looked like he was just trying to club Ozzy Diaz with the right hand. There was no technique on it, but he is a dog, dude, and this was a lot of fun. And I would say that there's an argument that Jordan Santos maybe should have won this fight, but at the end of the day, it going to Ozzy Diaz makes sense at the same time because Ozzy was landing the cleaner shots in round 2, so I guess I can see it, but that was a fun fight. Oh, and then we have Myron Santos versus Francis Marshall. Now, I picked Myron Santos to win this one, so for my very important pick rate, I guess this is a good thing, but watching the fight live, dude, I could not believe my eyes, to be honest, dude. Myron was frozen. He was very inactive. He wasn't landing much at all. If I'm being honest, man, like I've heard some sentiment going around that he was landing the bigger shots and all that. Francis Marshall was landing bigger volume and constantly pressing forward on the front foot, not being deterred by anything that Myron Santos was landing. I'm just not too sure how you give this fight to Myron, but at the same time, I know there are some people based on my community post that gave it to Myron Santos and said that he actually did deserve to win that. So maybe you guys are right. Maybe I'm wrong. So I will go back and rewatch that fight because, I do like to cover robberies and revisit some robberies. So maybe in some future video, if I rewatch this fight and come to the conclusion that Francis Marshall was robbed, then I'll make a video on that. But otherwise, I will very gladly prove myself wrong upon rewatches of this fight. So let's just see how that goes. But as far as it stands right now, dude, I think it was a robbery against Francis Marshall. But let's move on to the next fight. And wow, Carlos Leal is serious. He is a serious fighter. Alex Morono needs all the credit in the world for absorbing the amount of shots that he did without going down. The guy's tough as nails. Man, he is an absolute dog. But Carlos Leal is a powerhouse. This man is a wrecking machine. When he throws his combinations, he does worry me a little bit when he leaves his chin up in the air while he's throwing combinations. I guess he just didn't respect the power coming back at him from Alex Morono, so it does make sense. Alex Morono doesn't really throw a lot of sting on his punches. He kind of just throws flappy arm punches. So I can understand why Leal would have no respect for his power. But, dude, he was just digging those left hooks to the body, going up top, man, just throwing beautiful combinations. And he looked like he realized that he was levels above Morono and just wanted to make it look as easy as he possibly could. And I think he did that, dude. This was a fantastic performance. What a finish from Carlos Leal. This dude's pretty scary. And I think he's for sure at least top 10 material from what I've seen so far. And then we have Bruno Ferreira versus Armen Petrosyan. Fun fight. Bruno Ferreira, I think he showed more wrinkles to his game than I was expecting. He really just displayed a full, well-rounded MMA game. And with a beautiful slick transition to an armbar, like triangle armbar situation, makes Armen tap. Great performance. This might actually be the best performance of Bruno's career if you just look at the well-rounded nature of it. He really just emptied his entire tool bag all over Armen Petrosyan in this fight. That sounded strange, but you know exactly what I mean. Let's move on to the next one, though. And we got another fraud check. In the year of fraud checks, it just had to happen, I suppose. Ray Suraya, so one-dimensional on the feet. He only has a left cross with that chin sticking right up in the air. He doesn't really look to want to be fighting. He does everything to avoid fighting. You could just see it with the body language. He does not like taking shots at all. Joshua Van just looked better than him. Of course, there was that one beautiful throw that I don't even know the name of, that Joe and DC were just jerking off over. You know, reasonably so. It was a fantastic moment, but it was really the only thing that Ray Suraya was able to get done all fight. Joshua Van is so good. Awesome on the feet, man. He's so quick. He is so quick. Like, he was really taking advantage of the small little windows that Ray Suraya was giving him and just landing at such a high clip, man. He looked great this fight. Joshua Van, at his age too, man, future champ material. Future champ with all the experience he's putting up so far, dude. And the improvements he's making fight over fight. Such a great sprawling brawler. Fan favorite for a reason. Great performance. I feel like he could have pushed a little harder to get the finish. So I feel like Ray Suraya was done. I did predict the third round finish for Van. He didn't get it, but a great performance nonetheless. Like this dude has to be ranked pretty soon. He has to get a ranked opponent. There's no other direction that makes sense to me. And then we have Maurizio Rufy casually dropping one of the best knockouts of all time and probably the knockout of the year. That perfectly placed, perfectly set up wheel kick. Rufy is my favorite fighting nerd. He's been my favorite fighting nerd. Like, up to now, it's always been like Rufy, Jean Silva, Carlos Prates, and then Cal Baralho. Now it's probably Rufy, Carlos Prates, Jean Silva, Cal Baralho. That's now my fighting nerds list. And then Bruno Brazil is somewhere back there. You know what I'm saying? But wow, what a shot. This dude is so fucking legit. I called him one of the most accurate strikers in the UFC and predicted the first round finish for a reason, but I did not expect him to uncork a picture-perfect wheel kick like that and land it exactly where you want to land this shot and sleep Bobby Green like that. I felt bad for Bobby, man. This was obviously a really tough fight for him to take in the first place, and to get knocked out in the first round. It's many knockouts in a row now for Bobby Green. We may be seeing the end of his career shortly, and probably him getting signed by GFL shortly after. So yeah, that was just insane. Maurizio Rufy is next level when it comes to his striking. He really represents some next level striking. And then we have Yasmin Lucendo and Amanda Lemos putting on a boring ass fight. Don't want to speak on this one. Amanda Lemos got the win. Who gives a shit? Ignacio Bahamondes, man, what a shock victory here, because I expected him to win, but I thought maybe he'd break down Jalen Turner. Jalen Turner would. Did I just call him Jalen? Jalen Turner. You know, I thought maybe he'd be broken down, maybe a little gassed by the third, then Bahamondes would pick him apart and TKO him. I didn't expect him to catch him in a triangle in round one. Beautifully executed. Looks like Jalen might retire. You can kind of see it on his face too, and his whole demeanor. He doesn't seem like he really loves fighting anymore. He kind of reminds me a little bit of like a Mike Davis type of fighter, or Rory McDonald when he lost that killer instinct, you know. So unfortunate for Jalen Turner, but what a great victory for Bahamondes, one of my favorite fighters in the UFC. And this dude needs a high-profile fight against a high-level striker, because that's just a treat, dude. I think maybe when Fiziev recovers from the beating he took against Justin Gaethje, let's do Fiziev versus Bahamondes. That would be a treat for the fans. Oh, then we get the co-main, dude. This fight was so good. It was so good. I got my pick wrong. I picked Fiziev. I thought that the chin on Justin Gaethje would finally be done for, and it looked like in the first round he was a bit tentative. It looked like it took him eating a couple shots to realize, okay, I can still do this, and then he just kind of took over the fight. Although it was close, just like the first one, Justin really took over in round 3, but this time he left no question as to who deserved to win the fight. Drops Fiziev bad in round 2. Fiziev is so tough. Like to come off the layoff that he was on, right, on like not even 2 weeks notice, and deliver what he delivered until he couldn't anymore. It was just a beautiful thing. He's such a humble martial artist. I love the dude. He took the opportunity. Like, surely he gets a decent fight up the rankings just to reward him for taking this fight on short notice. But man, Justin Gaethje, at this point, there should be no doubt that he is one of the greatest fighters of all time to never win undisputed titles. He's just so good, man. He's so damn good. The longevity of his career, with the style of him as well. Like, these types of fighters deteriorate at some point, right? You would think so, at least. But I guess fighters like him and Max Holloway are just simply built different. Justin Gaethje, just a classic. Him and Dustin Poirier are the same in the sense that they rarely, or if not ever, lose 2 fights in a row. And Gaethje looked, as good as ever here. Those collar tie uppercuts are so money. They are so money, man. This guy's like the regen of Randy Couture when it comes to those collar tie uppercuts. But he also just reminds me of one of my favorite fighters of all time, Dan Henderson. This dude, a former wrestler who decides that he just likes throwing bombs, and just the way he throws his strikes, dude. Oh, like his body mechanics are just so unique, and the way he's able to generate power and torque at such a short distance. I love watching Justin Gaethje, man. Even though I picked against him here, this is one of those results to get wrong that I'm happy to get wrong, just because of how much of a legend Justin Gaethje is, the respect shown between both these guys as well. It was a beautiful fight. It really was. Just a symphony of violence, and turned out eerily similar to the first fight. Wow, just two men who were seemingly born to fight each other, but Justin just comes out on top with that experience, really, right? He's used to going to war and going through those wars of attrition, and Rafael Fiziev, he just can't keep it up for all 3 rounds. If this was a 5-rounder, then Justin surely would have finished Fiziev. So at the end of the day, I'm glad that this one ended up only being 3, but it was a great fight nonetheless. And yeah, the card altogether was great. It may have been soured a bit by that main event, the result of it. But at the end of the day, man, just try your best to appreciate the fights that you have in front of you and not get too emotionally attached to the results, because at the end of the day, that'll do you no good, because this is one of the most punishing, one of the least forgiving sports ever, really, at the end of the day. And you're not in there with your favorite fighters. They can only do what they can do, and you can't expect them to do any more than that, right? But that, yeah, like I said, that concludes my thoughts. I appreciate you watching. I'll see you on the next one.